Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Hall, and today I'm going to discuss how you can keep a spiritual practice in any environment or living situation. I've gotten a couple questions on this, so I thought that I would combine them into this video. First of all, I'd like to talk about what a spiritual practice is. Spirituality, the way that I would describe it, can be defined as your true relationship with yourself. You see, all the power, wisdom, and meaning that you might ever look for can be accessed, can be found within you. Why? First, because we are made in the image of the Creator, and because all things are inherently connected. If you're connected to everything, then all you need in order to access any wisdom or power in the universe is to tap into yourself. God is a force that exists inside each and every one of us. It's the same force and sentience that created the whole universe from scratch. Just think about that. We're all sharing participation in that God force at all times. So it's through journeying within yourself that you come to know God, and thus to find meaning, purpose, and all the higher wisdom that you desire. So then, what's a spiritual practice? Your spiritual practice is whatever you consciously choose to do with your lifestyle to expand your consciousness and grow healthfully in your discovery of yourself and existence as a whole. Spirituality is filled with an infinite gamut of experiences based on each individual's very unique personal path. And what that means is that there is no one-size-fits-all spiritual practice or belief system intended to serve all 7 billion of us. Each and every human being is unique and has his or her own spiritual path to follow. And also, it'd be boring if we were all doing exactly the same thing all the time. We came here to expand consciousness in infinite ways. So there are, infinite ways to explore our spirituality. So, for example, the spiritual practice for one person might involve daily meditation and yoga. For another, it might be found in the self-empowerment and discipline of a fitness routine. For someone else, it might be a prayerful relationship with ascended beings such as the angels, the Christ, Krishna, the goddess, and so forth. For another person, it might be the study of religious or spiritual teachings left behind by wise teachers. And for some, it might revolve around moral principles or dietary habits or spiritual ceremonies and rites of passage. For another person, it might be their artwork. The list goes on and on. Your spiritual practice is whatever lifestyle personally speaks to you in the way of finding inner growth, life purpose, and a deep sense of joy and peace with life. So all spiritual paths are to be respected. So the first question I would like to address is, how does one keep a spiritual practice in a non-spiritual home? First, in order to approach this question, I think that it's important to establish that all human beings are spiritual by nature. We all have spirituality, we just might not all be aware of it and practicing it consciously. But whether a person considers themselves spiritual or not, there is one spiritual force that is universally translatable across all cultures, belief systems, or any other of our differences, and that is love. Love is a universally understood state of being through which all of us can share a spiritual experience no matter who we are. You can practice love in your life with other people, no matter their beliefs or their lifestyle. And know also that living a life in which you're practicing love can certainly work to uplift the environment and your living space that you share with others to become a wonderful place for you to grow spiritually. So live life in a loving manner, and through practicing that, you can maintain a spiritual practice in any environment or situation. Now, more specifically, for those of you who like to maintain a spiritual practice that includes personal time to grow spiritually, such as in meditation, prayer, yoga, spiritual study, song, dance, spiritual ceremonies, etc., I have a few suggestions for you. The first is to maintain a sacred space, somewhere where you can go to be alone and to have private time to yourself to practice all of those things. This could be in your bedroom, it could be in a quiet room in your home where you know that you won't be disturbed. You could also go outdoors, perhaps in your yard or at a nearby park. Having your own spiritual space is helpful because this can be your own private sanctuary, a place that you know you can always retreat to feel at peace and to have some quiet time to contemplate and connect with spirit. I think private time is a wonderfully supportive component to a spiritual practice. Now, on the other hand, I think that it's also helpful to have a spiritual community that you can participate in, whether this means joining at a yoga class and connecting with your local yoga community, joining a meditation class or something of that nature, or even a book group. Having a network of support of like-minded, compatible, spiritually minded people is very, very supportive, and having a place to practice your spirituality with other people. We know that when we practice spirituality with other people, that oftentimes that spiritual energy is magnified. So when you meditate with other people, that spiritual energy is magnified. Or if, for example, you participate in things like dance churches, also known as ecstatic dance, the energy of that dancing and connecting with other people in the room, we catalyze one another. We are all connected, remember. We are truly our brother's keepers. So whatever energetic, emotional, or spiritual achievements that you might make for yourself in the moment that you're sharing with other people, you're also making for other people, and we're all lifting one another up in our spiritual practice. So have a community that you can go to as well to uphold your spiritual practice. My next suggestion is to keep a journal. I think that keeping a journal is an incredibly powerful tool in maintaining a spiritual practice, because keeping a journal helps you to first more deeply understand your feelings, to explore any life questions that you have or desires. It can help you to keep progress, to keep track of your spiritual goals or your personal growth. And it's even a way to communicate with your spirit guides. A lot of people practice something called automatic writing, where you can, for example, ask spirit, ask God a question, and then just begin to trust and to write and to explore whatever feelings, ideas, images come forward, and then notice the connections, notice where any answers might arise for you in that. Your journal can be part of your spiritual sacred space, that private space too. And it can be your personal private tool to explore your heart and mind. Another suggestion that I have is to spend time in nature. In nature, your energy will begin to match the energy flow of the earth. So as you start to sync up with the earth's natural rhythms and cycles, your body, your mind, and your spirit benefit. The earth has the power to balance and heal just about anything. And when you spend time in nature, you welcome the energy into your being. So nature's a place also you can think of as where many of our greatest spiritual teachers, our artists, poets, and philosophers have gone to awaken their minds and to find their spirituality. And it can certainly do the same for you. So I highly recommend having some time within your routine that you set for your spiritual practice to go out in nature. A little side note that I was thinking of here too is when you're creating a spiritual practice for yourself, make a routine. We as human beings thrive off of rhythms and cycles. We love our circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle, the rites and passages that we use to identify the passing of a year or the coming and going of the seasons. Have a cyclical sort of rhythm to your spiritual practice, whether that rhythm represents something that you do or contemplate daily, weekly, or monthly. This is a helpful thing to really keep you on track and to help you always, kind of check in with yourself. So my last suggestion in this is that as you live your spiritual practice, Always honor yourself and your feelings with respect. Put your feelings first. Spiritually minded people who are practicing consciousness expansion can often feel very sensitive to the energy of others. So if you're in a non-spiritual home with, other people, you may be very sensitive to their energy. Know that that sensitivity is a gift because it's a sign that your spiritual awareness is indeed growing. So honor it by listening to your feelings and creating space and boundaries where needed in your life, and by choosing to surround yourself with loving, gentle relationships and environments. Create that spiritual environment in your home. And it can certainly be brought into balance with the lifestyles and routines of others, because there's universality in all people through love, as I said before. So the next question that I wanted to address today is the question, how do I convince someone to accept my spirituality? Well, the answer to this question is that first, we're all human beings with our own free will. And in the end, we can't make someone else accept something they choose not to accept. But most importantly, you don't need anyone else's approval in order to live the spiritual life you choose for yourself. No one has the right or the ability, in truth, to control or limit how you use your mind and spirit. So while you may want someone else's approval, if you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. No one else gets to decide how you live your life and what you choose to believe in. It's simply not up to them, and their acceptance or lack of acceptance has no true power to affect your life unless you give it permission to. So my first suggestion is simply to live your spirituality freely. Express it and experience it. Don't worry about what other people think of you. Be independent of the opinion of other people. After all, if someone else called you a tree, you wouldn't wake up the next morning sprouting branches and leaves. So simply live your life with love, and it's very likely that others will start to simply see that your spirituality makes you happy, healthy, kind, loving, and full of joy. And even if they don't understand your spirituality, they might begin to accept it because, hey, it seems to be working for you. Now, also on that note, I'd also kind of like to say that if you're practicing your spirituality in such a way, such as meditating or praying, certainly practice it freely, but that's one of those things where maybe it's good to find either some private time or space to do it in, or do it in your spiritual community, which with other spiritual people who are, open to that sort of thing. Because sometimes, if we're sitting there meditating or praying in a room full of other people where, hey, maybe that kind of thing might raise an eyebrow for them, then you don't want to expose yourself to too much negative energy, because for many of us, our spirituality is something that we are very emotionally connected to, that we love very, very much, and to expose it to negative opinions and judgment from other people that may just not be open could be just a waste of energy, and you may not want to expose yourself to that kind of energy. So it's good to have a balance. Just have a balance and find where and when and how you want to share your spirituality with others. And again, know that there are some things that are universal, such as just living in a very, very loving, compassionate way with other people. Now, depending on the kind of relationship it is that you're dealing with, where you want someone to accept your spirituality, you can choose how closely and intimately you choose to share that spirituality with that person, or whether or not it makes sense to keep that relationship going depending on the kind of treatment you're receiving based on your spirituality. So for example, I have plenty of friends, acquaintances, and family members throughout my life who perhaps don't consider themselves spiritually minded, or who might identify as having a very different spirituality than I myself have. But despite the differences, those people are totally loving. They're kind, respectful, and positive to be around. Some of the most loving people I have met consider themselves to be atheists, but conduct themselves in what I consider to be a spiritual manner because they consciously treat all other beings with love and compassion. And conversely, if the relationship fails to honor and respect you and how you choose to live, and you see that person maybe reflecting that way to other people as well, then perhaps it's in your best interest to let that relationship go. And that can be important because we know that the relationships that we closely surround ourselves with are the energies that we're closely participating in. We sort of become the 5 or 6 or 10 people that we spend the most amount of time with. So choose your relationships wisely. Choose who you want to connect intimately with wisely. You want to keep the energy around you nice and high and loving. And that doesn't mean we want to shut out or judge people who don't consider themselves spiritually minded. We want to love and be open to everyone, but have respect for yourself and have standards as to what kind of behavior and so forth you want to surround yourself with. Now, here's something. If it's a relationship with someone very close to you, such as with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, and you love them very deeply, but this issue of accepting your spirituality arises, then maybe you're in a place where you deem this relationship worth putting some effort into coming to that understanding with them. So if that's what you want to do, then there are a few suggestions that I have to help to further that along. And the first is to approach communicating about the subject with love. Set a standard in how you communicate with this person by choosing accepting and respectful words to breach the subject. So that old adage of treat others the way you'd like to be treated comes into play and can create good opportunities to share in a way that is open and respectful. So even if they have different spiritual beliefs than you can approach them in such a way where you're very accepting and loving and respectful of their beliefs, and therefore invite them to do the same with you. Invite your loved one to understand your spirituality and to understand that you'd like to be accepted and loved for who you are. Let them know that you love them and you care about them, and that's why you are helping them to better understand you. Now, please do remember and keep in mind that if you try this and the other person disrespects you or sends abuse in your direction, then the conversation is over and you must choose to love yourself first. Know where your personal boundaries are. No one has to take abuse from another person. And if that starts to happen, verbally or otherwise, simply state that you have too much love and respect for yourself to continue the exchange. Another approach that you can take, given again that this person is respectful of you and isn't sending any toxic energy your way, is to allow the other person to see how your spirituality benefits you. You don't have to have a relationship with someone where they understand the dogma or the beliefs or all of the airy-fairy metaphysical things that you might subscribe to. They don't have to get all of it, but if they can see how your spirituality benefits you, then they might slowly come to understand it and slowly come to accept it. So actions really can speak louder than words. And when your loved one begins to see healthy, positive changes that your spirituality has helped to supply and the loving way that you treat other people, then they very well may become more open to it. If someone loves you, your happiness is important to them. And if they're wise, they will see that what makes you happy and healthy is safe for them to accept. And you know what? If in the end your closest family members or whoever it might be just doesn't, accept, the spirituality, know that you can always find like-minded friends elsewhere. The most important thing to keep in mind, I think, in all of this is your self-love. Even if we ideally want our loved ones to be able to be close to us and to share the things that we find important, if that cannot be the case, then the most important thing for you to do is to put yourself first. Create space and boundaries in a relationship with others that allow you to live peacefully and in integrity with your heart and your soul's true desires. And remember, again, it's always possible to find like-minded friends out in the world. I can't stress that enough. You can create your own soul family made up of people who love you, respect you, honor you, and cherish you. And in fact, the more strongly you hold to your personal standards and healthy boundaries within your relationships with other people, the more powerfully you begin to attract healthy relationships with loving, compatible people. So love yourself first. And that sets the standard for the world to follow and how you're treated and in the experiences you attract. Resonate love and you'll attract love everywhere you go. In order to, in conclusion, practice your spirituality anywhere, at any time, and in any environment or situation, look for opportunities to simply love. Love is the constant spiritual practice that can be brought with you everywhere you go because it's universal and it applies to every situation and experience. All right, so that's all I have for you today. If you liked our chat today, do leave me a thumbs up to let me know that you liked it, and I'll make more videos like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to keep in touch, you can visit me on Facebook or Twitter. I'll leave the links in the description below. And if you'd like your own personal spiritual counseling session with me, please visit my website at www.seraphim.com, and you can learn more about that. Thank you so much, and know that you are all so very loved and so very blessed. Bye!